experience, right? And then he draws you into the message he was going to give, right? So, I've read some of his books, actually many of those, but Music of the Soul touched me so much for not just the greatness of the content in there, but how it was composed and how it was written as a literary piece. Okay. And that's what I wanted to just talk about today. Use this to give you an idea of his literary genius, right? That I perceived. So, for some of you who have probably not read this, it's basically a fictional story, but it's based on characters from our mythologies, right? It was set in ancient Dwarka. This is the time just after the Mahabharata war, and Yudhishthira was ruling the kingdom. And this is just before Kali Yuga is going to start, right? And it's such a beautiful period that you can connect to many times in history, including the present times, right? The themes that he used in there to talk about how the conflict between various thoughts and various ideas always happen, and how do God, how do the world teacher prepares us to face it, right? And that's the essence of that story. And it has many layers in there. And that's the beauty of that book, right? So, during that time, a lot of internal strife is happening, right? Within Dwarka, Yadavas are forming their own groups and clashing among themselves, right? So there is internal strife. And this is pretty familiar to us. It happens in many places, right? We always try to divide ourselves in terms of religion, caste, language, whatever, right? Race. And then, at the same time, there is a conflict of ideas too. There is materialistic thought that's being propounded by Charvaka in the book, right? And it's very interesting that many of the ideas, the materialistic ideas, we experience every day in Western world and thought, right? And in East too, in many places. At some points, like when I was reading the book long time back, first time, right? I was thinking, I know where this is probably going, but some of these things he's talking about, what Charvaka was telling, I mean, a lot of people resonate with today. So, how is he going to turn this around, right? And then, in one of the chapters, he makes a very good dialogue between some of the ladies, Hema and Ruta and others, where she says, there are many concepts. You don't go against a concept, right? You have to understand that concept and know what is, it's not whether it's right or wrong, where it applies or doesn't apply, right? So a good, interesting thing, even they have a dialogue about the reproduction and sexual act, right? And he uses God, Lord Krishna, to make such a great point that you can do something with detachment. And if you understand it, right, you're not saying something is bad or something is good. You have to know where it applies, what its position is. And are you doing it without getting emotionally attached to it, right? And it's, and the way he synthesized this and gave this message in that book is amazing, right? And he used a lot of masters. So Krishna, through Devapi, Maru, Maitreya, Jwalkul, all these masters are characters in this book, right? And one of the things that hits us, he introduces some characters with different names, like Giri Sharma, Hari Sharma, Madhubrata, and then suddenly connects them to the masters. And immediately the reader would feel, right, it's not in the name, right? There is the soul connection that is transmitted through different ages that they are present in this world, right? And that is not just for masters, for everybody, right? And once you realize that, right, I mean, it is, in another place he would say, one of the disciples of Charvaka says that what is there in Bhagavad Gita, it's the same old stuff that is repeated from Puranas and other scriptures, right? Why are they making a big deal about it? He says there is one message that God gave. It is just that it needs to be repeated multiple times in multiple ways for us to understand. And like Professor said very nicely, all that is glamour, right? It's not like somebody is giving a new thought, but it has to be sometimes reiterated, reinterpreted, right? To the age and time when people are at a state where they can receive it, right? And the way they can receive. So a few examples of what happened, right? In the literary devices, Master very skillfully used in this book, allegories and symbolisms, the whole Dwarka setting symbolizes the human condition, right? And Dwapara Yuga is ending, Kali Yuga is starting, and what is the state of mind, right? And you can again have this setting anywhere. There's internal strifes in us between various things we're thinking about. The internal strife and self-destruction that Yadavas are going through, you can identify within us how sometimes when ego takes over, right, we have self-destructive tendencies. You would think, oh, why would that leader do such a thing, right? Why would Putin invade Ukraine or something? And it is it is what happens and what can get us out of it. That's the whole essence of music of the soul, right? So same with Kali Yuga, the various forces and characters that were promoting materialism, pleasure, discord. You can see that everywhere today. The interesting thing is that in that book, Charvaka, his disciples, Lokayata and others, are trying to sow seeds of discord by falsifying information. Like they want to add stanzas in Mahabharata or in other places where people start thinking differently and blaming. For example, the way the caste system evolved, or from being related to the work they were doing to inheritance. There are so many concepts like that that they were trying to falsify and make it look like that was the scripture. And that you see today too, right? How much false information we encounter. It's sometimes very hard to believe what is true and what is not. Okay. And the way Krishna prepares everybody, Master doesn't use any teaching directly by Krishna to say how he prepared us for Kali Yuga. He uses a beautiful metaphor, which is the mystical music coming from his flute. That symbolizes that everybody who listens to it is mesmerized. And you see a great change in some of the people who listen to that, and like Pratishi in this book. It's a symbol. The mystic music coming from his flute is his teaching, right? You connect to it in abstract. That calms your mind, that helps you deal with all the stress and be prepared for all the internal strife and the destruction around, right? And that's a great symbol. And then we see all the banners that they have between the club banner, blues province, and all that. So these are all symbols. So the other thing is teaching through dialogue, right? Every chapter, there are 27 chapters, and every chapter gives the setting and has a particular meaning. Right? And many of those chapters, that meaning is conveyed through dialogue, whether it is between Chitraban and Pratiji or Hari Sharma, Giri Sharma. I mean, each dialogue is clarifying a spiritual concept, and it is trying to teach us something. So this is a great way to teach, right? Instead of just saying how soul goes from one life to another, or changes the body, or talk about the gunas and things like that. He's using dialogue, and it's a simple question and a simple turn of phrase that make us think and understand the concept very well, right? So we have a lot of debates in there, and that is the beauty of this book too. And the debates are done in such an objective manner that while you're reading, you're trying to, you're experiencing both sides making some good points and then leading to the kernel of truth that Master is teaching there, right? So this is all part of the divine plan and how the subtle workings of the divine plan are revealed incrementally throughout the book. So, in the organization of the plot, right? That's one of the things that really struck me about this book, right? So, the book is, as I said, divided into multiple chapters. It is episodic in nature. Each chapter has good dialogue and focus on particular events. And you can read a chapter separately and get something out of it. But there is a overall plot that overrides this whole thing and brings everything together, right? And it's a great literary technique, right? How do you organize a book? He also uses places to immediately get us into that setting. When he talks about Dwarka, you get a certain experience, right? When he moves into the Charvaka ashram, you get a different type of experience there, right? I mean, he's setting that place and associating certain thoughts to it, right? When there is dialogue going on in the Charvaka ashram, you know there is a lot of talk about materialism, right? When the dialogue is happening in Dwarka, you know there is a lot of Vedic philosophy that's being discussed, right? And then and the caves, right? Where especially Swalko, when he's experiencing there, he's resting there. It embodies how the hidden knowledge would be coming out, right? I mean, the cave represents that, right? And it is coming out of that. And you see shifting viewpoints too, right? I mean, interesting characters like Sudama. Previously, I had one view of Sudama, right? With just one incident where he goes in, Krishna goes to his house and he gets that. But he uses that Sudama character, who was very poor before, and makes him the administrator of the prison system and the treasury. And he's collecting gold coins from the dwarfs, right? Indirectly coming to the charioteers. Just the creativity involved in setting that character, the how that character was written, that's amazing, right? And similarly, you have gray shades in characters. I mean, you don't think Devapi or Zwalku, you won't imagine that in another life, like Giri Sharma and Hari Sharma, they were going through internal struggle whether they can believe Charvaka or not, right? They're on that path. So the characters are interesting when you have, it's not black and white and there are shades of gray in the characters. And slowly he's shifting those viewpoints and bringing them under the spell of Krishna's music, right? So, and this is another amazing thing about his setting of each scene. I just picked some examples from the book, right? Sun balls sliding down the line of demarcation, right? It's like balls sliding down, right? Half-blind sparks of reflection, corpse-like touch to the trees, right? It immediately evokes that what's happening there, and you'll experience it. And it's powerful language, right? Skyscraping domes of gold, melted gold complexion, right? I mean, he didn't say his particular color or whatever, right? It's melted gold complexion. So there's fluidity in there, right? I mean, if you just say his gold complexion, it doesn't give that extra experience that we get out of the character. So overall, the greatness of Master Rike's literary skills is that he explains very complex concepts and gives wisdom in a way with humor, examples, dialogue, fiction, that it caters to a wide range of people, and it's not hard to read, and it's not as hard to understand because of his writing, right? But don't get deceived by it, because as you read, as you think about it and contemplate, you will be experiencing more layers of meaning, and it sinks in, right? But see, if it is very hard to read at the first time, you won't read, right? So he draws you in, okay, and makes you feel like you understood something in the first attempt, right? And then you reread it. You will start learning more, right? So he has left us such a treasure trove of books and lectures that, I mean, amazing, we'll cherish forever. Okay, thank you, and appreciate this opportunity.